If you haven't noticed already, my PNGTuber got a major glow up recently. I wanted my avatar more alive, and it went from boring static images to this. Now there are plenty of good PNGTuber tutorials on YouTube. I would recommend these two on the basics of how you make a PNGTuber from cutting up images to rigging. But I'm missing two key things from these tutorials. Like how do you actually plan a character for movement? And something that was super freaking hard to find is how to record your PNGTuber in OBS to add into video editing software. If you're primarily a video creator like me and not a streamer, getting rid of a green screen in DaVinci Resolve can be a total nightmare. Alright, let's fix that. Let's talk a little bit about animation. Please don't freak out, we will not do anything super complex. I promise. There are 12 principles of animation. To be honest, I'm not an animator, so I never have all of them in my head. I'm an artist that happens to know a little bit of animation. Anyway, there is one principle of animation called follow-through. This is when objects move in different speed. Let's say one part of the object drags behind as it moves from one place to another. For example, if a driver sees a red light and slams on the brakes, the car will stop immediately, while the driver will continue that motion forward and snaps back in place due to the seatbelt. Okay, bear with me, this will all make sense in a minute. You can think about your character as a paper doll. You will have flat images on top of each other in different layers. If you rigged anything in Spine 2D, you will have no issue learning PNGTuber Plus. To help visualize how it works, here is the separation I did for the head, body, hair, etc. A very important thing to have in mind, and this is based on my experiment with rigging in Spine 2D, is that you need to paint what's behind the different parts. It might sound like a lot of work, and trust me, it can be, but the idea is that you won't see something being cut behind any asset. So you can animate more freely without thinking of those weird cuts. However, when you design your character in 3D view, there will be other types of problem that you might need to solve to avoid cuts. For example, I had to merge part of a hair with the head to avoid the hair going over the ear while the character was moving. Then I had to separate the hair in front of the character's face into its own layer. Remember that I mentioned follow-through animation. Now we can put that knowledge to some good use. You might have noticed the bun has a high drag value compared to the rest of the hair, so it moves with a different timing. Drag determines how much the image trails behind the assets it's linked to. Think of linked assets like a chain. Here's how I link the assets. Most of them are attached to the body and to the head. So when the head moves, the hair will follow. To create some depth to our character with the help of follow-through, the bun will be slower than the rest of the assets. This can be a helpful tool if you want a little bit more depth and make your PNGTuber come to life. Okay, now for some easy setup that you can do to record your PNGTuber in OBS. In OBS, create a new scene and profile that is specifically for your PNGTuber. The importance here is to record your video in FFmpeg format. Here are the different settings that you need to have to record a video transparent. I got this setup from this video here. Then we have the chroma key in filters, so it's important that you have a solid green or magenta background, so it's easy for OBS to remove. If your avatar has a lot of green in their design, it is important that you choose a magenta background to simply just avoid a bunch of post-processing headache in DaVinci Resolve. You will find the filters here. To change background color, you can find it here in PNGTuber Plus. If you're using line art, make sure it is consistent thickness and that you have filled the inside of your character so there is no alpha. Otherwise, the green screen will spill into the image. When you're done and export your PNGTuber into DaVinci Resolve, you have a lot of jagged edges, sharp, like a hedgehog. To fix that, we will need to soften the edges a tad bit. This is the reason why the lines is a little bit thicker, since this setup will remove some of it. In your Fusion tab, add a 3D keyer. If you have a little bit of magenta and green spill, find that with this one tool. In 3D Keyer, we are going to use something called Matte Finesse to fix those pixelated edges by adjusting the blur radius and in and out ratio to soften it. Now, unfortunately, The blur affecting 3D keyer is quite weak, so we can add a matte control to crank that up even more. In matte control, make sure to put filter on box and check this post multiply image option. It's very important you check this box, otherwise you will have a dark shadow or a white line behind your avatar. Also make sure to use threshold to remove the dark spill in your image. Then add more blur using the blur slider here. And there you have it. Good luck with your PNGTubers. Let me know in the comments what you think of the glow up. Is the moment too distracting or is it an improvement from the last one? Thanks for watching and I see you in the next one.